I'm Nigel, and I got no idea what I'm doing. This time, it's something different. I want to talk about my process for editing the videos that I do. When I first started out, I really had no idea what I was doing, so I was watching YouTube videos and just trying stuff out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I wish I knew when I was starting out. It's not going to tell you everything you need to know. I don't think either of us have time for that, but these are some things that are pretty important, stuff that I wish I knew when I was beginning. If there is any interest, then I might continue doing one of these for each video that I shoot. I'll be filming the work that I'll be doing, and maybe filming the filming. That's totally not going to get out of hand. I'm using Davinci Resolve for my editing. If you're using this, the next page isn't going to scare you, and if you're using any other kind of editor, then you'll probably be able to work out roughly what I'm doing. The program itself isn't really important for most of the tips that I'm going to talk about, but it's going to be easier if you're using Resolve. Why might you need to have multiple cameras? Well, there's one really good reason. It makes your editing much simpler. If you think about just having one camera and one long shot, any mistakes that you make on delivery, any words that you stuff up, or anything that goes even slightly wrong, either has to be cut out or it has to stay in the final edit. Now, if you cut it out, you may find that you're going to run into a bigger problem, which is suddenly your background changes or the position of your head changes. If I'm talking and I want to cut this out, and then my head's over here, a hard cut there is going to look really jarring. So, having a second camera means you've got something that you can cut to that can cover that up. If you've got two cameras filming the one action, you can chop out those words easily. I'll show you a bit of an example here.
The front bracing, that's a bit harder to say. I don't know if I can feel a difference.
Okay, so what you'll notice there is we've actually got three different shots and one audio track. We've got the shot across the car, sort of diagonally from the passenger's side. We've got the shot directly from in front, and then we've got some B-roll of the car going past. Again.
The front bracing, that's a bit harder to say.
Alright, so why do I cut there? Well, let's go back and have a look at the source footage.
The front bracing, we get bracing underneath.
You notice there I made a horrible mistake.
Are really important. The front bracing, we get bracing underneath.
The front bracing, the get bracing underneath. So, what I've got here is I'm using that shot with the audio.
The front bracing.
And then cutting to a shot from the Osmo Action, but also making a cut in the audio to remove the error. By removing that error, on the cut between one camera to another, it seems a lot more seamless.
The front bracing, that's a bit harder to say. I don't know if I can feel a difference, and I think that probably says more about me than the bracing itself.
You might have noticed that I had one audio track there for my two cameras. What I was doing is I had the mic attached to one of the cameras. I wasn't worrying about the audio for the second camera. It was just good enough that I could use the synchronization features within the program to synchronize the two tracks together. Your own program will probably have something similar, but it allows you to synchronize the video for two different tracks, and then you can just use the audio from the one of them. The B-roll footage, in this case, the car on the road, can come in really handy for covering edits that you just can't fix normally. You'll notice that there's various shots of the car driving past over the talking. That's what I was doing there, covering up some edits that I just couldn't fix with the two cameras. Here's another example.
I just had that moment of knowing.
Okay, now one thing to notice here on this cut, and I'll just go from one frame to another, is where my arms are positioned. Because it's actually from a slightly different time, because I was talking about something else at the end of this shot, you'll notice my arms, one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the gear stick. It's fairly important that your next shot matches that up. One hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the gear stick. If my arms were behind my head on that second shot, then I wouldn't be able to cut from the cameras to cover whatever mistake I made in the audio there. So be thinking about matching those shots between your two cameras or your three cameras and then you'll be able to cover up any problems that you make in your delivery pretty seamlessly. Now that you've seen that, you're probably going to notice it everywhere. Let's have a look at a few more.
From people I know. So let's not forget when we're trying to decide if a job like this is what makes it worth it most. So yeah, it's absolutely worth it.
A good trick to have. Having two cameras might be a little bit of a hassle. Maybe you don't have two cameras, but if you do, it can make your editing a whole lot easier. Next tip, shoot in the highest resolution that your camera lets you. Most of my cameras will let me shoot in 4K, and I always shoot in 4K. And the reason for it is this. I want you to have a look at a bit of the montage. Okay, so we're nice and close. We're up in the action as the car comes around that roundabout. Let's see where I got that footage from though. That's the source footage in 4K. You'll see that the MX-5 is way far away and it's small. It's also on a bit of a dodgy angle. Because I've shot this in 4K, it means that what I can do is zoom substantially in. I'll zoom in to 2 times. We've still got the quality there. The car's a lot bigger and the shot looks a lot more interesting. So if you've got 4K, even if you're not actually producing your videos in 4K, and I don't, I'm only putting them out in 1080, use 4K because you've got a much better ability to reframe your shots and get things exactly where you want them. Even when the camera's sitting on a tripod, zooming in from that 4K can be pretty useful. If we have a look here, this is the entire image. I'm at a zoom level of 1. But after that, I'm cropping in a little bit. Cropping in here to, well, 1.37. It means these shots here could look like they could be shot from 2 different cameras. At very least it adds a little bit of difference rather than having the same shot looking exactly the same all the way through. Audio and music are one of the more important parts of your video. In fact, you can have rubbish looking video as long as your audio is pretty good. I want to talk a little bit about the music that I use and how I time the music and the beats and the features of the music with the video. Have a look at this. Okay, so let's have a closer look at what's happening there. You'll notice that on the beats of the video, it's where I'm bringing in the bars. I'm having a little bit of fun with the black bars for the movie look for this kind of montage. So, a beat, and I'll bring in my first black bar. Another beat, and I'll bring in the second one. Have a look again. Then, when we actually change to the video of the car on the road, I'm bringing in the music again. Here's what happens when you combine the features of the music with the zooming from the 4K that I was talking about. Okay, so what's happening here? You'll notice that I start this section of the music right on that beat and bring in the first shot of my ugly mug there. Then, on the next beat, I'll cut to the underlying footage from the GH4. Now I'm back to the Osmo footage, but there's a difference here. The Osmo footage there is at a zoom of 1. The Osmo footage here is at 1.25. So on those beats, I'm cutting and zooming in. Let's watch again. This means that I can reuse the same footage from just those 2 cameras, but it looks slightly different each time, making things a little bit more interesting. Connecting your video and your music like this is a really good way of making your video look a lot more professional. You don't want to overdo it, you don't want to edit on every single beat, but occasionally listening to your music and listening to what it's actually doing and using that to inform your editing will make your videos a lot more fun and a lot more dynamic. So hopefully these tips have helped you out. There's way more to go, and I'll probably shoot a few more videos with some other tips as they come to mind. In the meantime, keep editing. See ya.